All right, everybody. It's a little after 10 o'clock on the 12th. Thank you all for joining the StrikePoint Gold webinar just to discuss the drilling and the Hercules Gold project and other projects that we have in Nevada. I'm Mike Allen. I'm the CEO of the company. Also on the line is Knox Henderson, who is IR. We're gonna do everything. Keep everybody muted during the presentation, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. The best way to get questions is to use the function to message to Knox and then you can ask a question and go from there. We will be recording the presentation. So let's get as the saying goes, let's get this show on the road. So, okay, this is the opening slide. We're just having a look at the Hercules project. We're facing north, classic Nevada. Let me get myself sorted out here. This area right here, this is the Hercules showing. There's another showing off to the west that we'll talk a little bit about. It's called Cliffs. This hill over here is called Loaves. This part of the picture here is Northeast and Rattlesnakes, because I found one right there back in an earlier point in my life. And believe me, when you hear one of those things, you know what they are. We will be making forward-looking statements through this. Read this at your leisure. But yeah, we are going to be making forward-looking statements, and hopefully this doesn't surprise anybody. So looking at the company, why StrikePoint and why now? Just give you a little bit of history of the company. StrikePoint is mature. It is an older company. It's been around since the early 80s. I came over as CEO 2 Novembers ago and moved the company in more of a Nevada focus. And this is the company is becoming. The companies are generally a reflection of the CEO. It's a bit of their personality, of what their what their drive is, what their focus is. I am a Nevada geologist. I've done about $250 million worth of transactions. Knox and I sort of started this all off. We're working in an area right around here near Tonopah. We acquired an asset from a distressed producer and acquired it for a song and essentially made it into a company. That's sort of been the theme of my life, is to acquire assets from distressed companies and put some love into the assets, and then let them sing and surface value for shareholders. Probably the most notable is here. This is the Sterling project. It's within southwestern Nevada. That was an interesting story. It was a flare of a company, not a Roman candle, but a flare. We bought this asset, the Sterling, for $10 million from a distressed producer. And 16 months later, we sold the company for $120 million to Coeur Mining. This is actually the start of a bit of a renaissance within the Walker Lane. This transaction sort of was one of the first M&A transactions in the Walker Lane in quite some time. When we did that deal, we sold out to Coeur Mining. Coeur subsequently sold out to AngloGold for this property, and there's quite a district that's being developed there right now. AngloGold just put out some new numbers on their resources: 16.6 million ounces, plus a few other deposits that are in the area. The 16.6 million ounces is a new discovery since about 2020. So it proves that the Walker Lane is fertile and is open for new discoveries. And then that brings us to our most recent transaction in StrikePoint, where we got the Hercules Gold project. And this is a bit of an interesting story about my history. I had this before in a company called Eclipse Gold Mining. Eclipse merged with a producer to create a company called Elevation Gold. had a production asset over in Arizona. I ran that company for a couple of years, and then moved on in my life and actually came over and joined StrikePoint. Elevation stumbled dominantly for what happened at the Moss Mine in Arizona. They never actually did any work on the Hercules after we did the merger into it. And so I sold the asset into Elevation to create Elevation for $25 million US. And then when Elevation stumbled, we were able to get it back for $250,000. So it was a sell high, buy low scenario. We essentially got it for a penny on the dollar before you consider currency, and that was an interesting transaction. We had a deadline to meet. The Elevation had a claim payment to make. One of the wonderful things about U.S. Mineral properties, if you don't make that claim payment, it's gone, and there's no recourse about it. And so you have to get that claim payment done. Elevation was in a pinch. There was nobody to sell it to but me because I'd already done the due diligence because I sold them the property. So it's a bit of a funny situation. Hercules, it's a big property. It's about 100 square kilometers. It's 312 drill holes in the database, and it's drill ready and ready to go. We are drilling. We put that news release out this week. People ask me why I focused in Nevada, and there's a few reasons for it. One of them is just the ease of access. Some people will hear me tell a story about $7 cans of Coke if you're working in the Arctic versus working in Alaska versus working in Nevada. The other thing is very demonstrable by this slide here. And Nevada is a low risk jurisdiction. It's probably the most mining friendly of the US states. You could argue Wyoming, you could argue Utah, Idaho, but it's up there. And what we see on this graph is this is 2023 versus 2024 funding of mineral exploration products. Oops, we got a couple people coming in. This is 2023 versus 2024 funding of mineral projects, financings. And so if you look at Canada was about $3.2 billion worth of funding that went in 2023, just under $2.5 billion in 2024, 70% or 75%. The US, it was about 1.6, 1.7 billion dollars of funding in both years. It didn't change. And that makes a really interesting point in that no matter what the market is, you can raise money to advance projects in the USA. And I think that that's still true today. Obviously, there's the political situation that everybody's aware of down south. I don't see them limiting investment into the US. We raise money in Canada and we spend it in the US, or we raise money global, we spend it in the US. I don't think that that's ever going to become a problem down south. And so I expect that this for this trend to continue. And also, even more so, the US and all countries are heading towards we want a domestic secure supply of minerals and components for whatever industry, green economy, defense, whatever it happens to be. The only way to get those things domestically is if you have an own source, a mine. And so I think that we're going to see a swing of the pendulum over the next decades of companies and countries wanting those production of those critical minerals in country, and so the jurisdictions are going to become more mining friendly. In terms of the key management, there's an old picture of me. We went through a bit of my history. The executive chairman is Sean Kuhn. If you know him, his day job is running Dolly Varden Silver. He was the former CEO of StrikePoint, but Dolly started to become a much more consuming effort of his time. And so he's very much a capital markets guy. He and I have got a good relationship, go back and forth looking at projects, figuring out ways to advance the company. The other um, rogue in the mix here is Adrian Fleming. I refer to Adrian as the Australian Devil. I can call him that because I worked with him up in the Arctic. Actually, the $7 Coke can conversation was with Adrian at Hope Bay in the year 2000. Adrian was also part of Northern Empire with me and was instrumental in guiding us to make that transaction work for all shareholders. Share capital structure, because we did the transaction to acquire the Hercules Gold Project, we just did a rollback. So it's a fairly tight structure right now, 41.6 million shares outstanding. The warrants are 30 cents and 90 cents, or pardon me, 30 cents and 70 cents. The 30 centers were created as a part of our most recent financing. There is an accelerator in there. If it runs for more than 10 days, greater than 40 cents, those warrants come in, minor amount of options. Market cap probably has gone up a little bit since we've been marketing, and cash is about $2 million, and that's going to fund our drill program. Major shareholders, Pathfinder was an interesting thing. That's something they've made money on several of my adventures in Nevada, so they're supportive of this. Management is about 4% of the company, and it's some people might say it's a small number, but it goes back to StrikePoint being a mature company. There isn't a gazillion founder shares at a tenth of a penny each. This is actual directors, management, putting real money, cutting real checks into the company, and not just doing a positioning round prior to going public. All right, moving on to the asset. So we're focusing up here, this project here, Hercules Gold Project. It's about an hour south of Reno. This is my happy hunting ground. I actually read an article, an interview with Rick Rule. Management teams are jurisdiction specific, and that caused me to have the thought of specializing in Nevada and particularly in the Walker Lane. I was driving on the highway right about here when the note went off. There was another article I read at the time. It was an interview with Sean Rosen, who is a Cisco Mining. I drive, and it was essentially I drive back and forth between Timmins and Val-d'Or, and I make money. I know all the projects, I know all the people, I know all the players, and so between that and the Rec Rule thought, as I was driving back and forth between Reno and Las Vegas, where do I want to be? It took me about that far to realize that this is where I want to be. Focus in Nevada, Tier 1 jurisdiction. Got a young family at home. I can get home to my kids, cheap to operate. And also, I'm not the only person that thinks like that. Any mining company in the world is comfortable working in Nevada. Speaking more about Hercules, it is an hour drive from Reno. It's got all the amenities that you would expect from a project in Nevada. It's got a power line going across it. There's water access, there's road access, there's good people, all those wonderful things. It does look somewhat similar to the Comstock Lode, which is about 20 miles to the west of Hercules. It's not. It's a different beast. People have thought that it was the faulted off offset. It's not that. Big land package, which attracts the seniors. The tested geological model, that's kind of an interesting story. When we did the transaction to sell Eclipse Gold Mining to create Elevation, we did two phases of drilling. Phase one was moderately successful. We got some good numbers. We tested the targets. Phase two, we tested a new geological model, and we were waiting for the results. And while the results came in, the ability to do the transaction was there. Doing a transaction is always an interesting thing because we essentially created liquidity for shareholders, got people out, and it was the right thing to do. We did that transaction. We got the assays back and went, oh, that new geological model worked. Well, oh well, we're sold off to create elevation. We'll come back to that later, but we never did. And so that created the opportunity to circle back to dealing with a plan of operation, and it's got a lot of upside potential. The exploration target is an articulation of the efforts to date, but there's a lot more work to be done on Hercules. And so I think it's a good starting point and a good guidance for people. But I think that the upside potential is still out there for us. This is the solids of the exploration model. This is the Hercules showing, the red spot on the slide. This is cliffs, where I was alluding to. Loaves you could see in the background, and this is northeast and rattlesnakes up here. And the siren showing to the south. What I like about this target or this model the most is particularly on Hercules and on cliffs. They both run out of data to the south. It looks like we can merge these things with drilling going further to the north, but it's wide open to the south. You can see where the alteration in veining duck under cover, and you can see evidence that it continues on, but nobody's had the guts to go out there and drill it. So that's what we're going, part of what we're going to be doing going forward. Oops, pardon me. Now looking at this in plan view, you can actually see it just runs out of data, out of data. So if you walk the ground up here, the vein is out there somewhere, but nobody's ever tried to drill it. And this is some very high grade stuff. Again, Cliff's target, very high grade or higher grade material, open to the south. It just runs out of data, but you can see that these things are trying to link up, and it just doesn't have the data to make that leap across. Yeah. And then we get into the untested potential. There's 40 to 45 additional geophysical targets further to the south that need to be tested. And if you start to say, okay, well, this is 6 targets, what are the other 45 going to get us to? And that's sort of where we start to get excited about. You can start to see the arm wave. You can start to see other groups are getting interested in what Hercules is, and we'll see where we can get it with this drilling. More of a property scale look. So the 1,000,000 ounces up in there. Siren, actually a little bit was down here at Sirens where there is drilling, but there's no drilling essentially that we have data for this southern portion of the property. And that's where the additional geophysical targets are. Visible gold at surface here, and here. And then the other part of that I'll point your attention to is this group here. This is Newmont. Some of the people on the call are probably old enough to remember the Frontier transaction when Newmont bought Frontier Gold for the Long Canyon deposit in Nevada. It was a $2.2 billion transaction. There was a whole series of rats and mice additional properties that were within Frontier. That's where Newmont got this piece of ground for. It's a past producer. It's called the Como. It's a small producer, small underground thing. There's an old open pit heap leach. There's the Huey Logan here. It's produced about 20,000 ounces. So there's obviously gold here in the south. We've been dominantly focused on in the north. We've got to get into the south as we go forward. There's additional targets, tons grade that need to be articulated further to the south. As I said earlier, we just announced a drill program for Hercules. This is the layout as was proposed. We've got some work to do, getting everything put in properly. But the guys are out there, they're drilling. It's actually been going quite well. We're on hole 5. I believe the rig is on this hole here right now. Then we're going to head up here to Loaves. Most of these targets or most of these things are infill and expansion. This hole here is an offset of the last hole that we drilled in 2020, which ended in 40 meters of 1.6 grams per ton and ended in mineralization. So the thought is to offset and extend it, see how far we can push that mineralization. Over here at Hercules, these two holes are targeting what we call the Telephus vein, which is Hercules's mother. There's visible gold at surface. This hole here is just to the south of this sample, visible gold at surface. There's visible gold to the north of it. Two sides, drill it into the middle. There's a big geochem anomaly out here, and that's what's driving us to drill this hole. There's a big, as I said, big geochem out in this area, and we think that may be a radial structure. The thoughts of what we're looking at here for controlling the mineralization is this is a big crater caldera. Knox hates when I talk in the big words like this, creating ring structures, and then you'll have radial structures. If there's a radial structure going through here, then we've got an opportunity for all these things to bulk out into one great big super pit. It's never been really tried before. If it works and you start putting a pit like this, it's about 2 kilometers by 1.5 kilometers. It's a lot of tons. It's a lot of ounces. So there's big target potential here. Looking at the drilling in section, this is the cliffs target. So just popping back section through like that. This is hole 40 where we had good results ending in mineralization. You can see the opportunity to push through. This actually shows a really good part of what we discovered in 2020. Our initial phase of drilling was from the west, and we were essentially going down dip. So you either really got the mineralization or you didn't get it at all. And it was very much a random number generator. You're either drilling right into the structure or not. And so we had a lot of things that struggled with continuity. One of the best geologists I ever worked with, started scratching his head and looking around and said, well, let's try and drilling it backwards. And so we drilled and it got too predictable. And that's a key thing in these projects is if you can get the mineralization to predictable, then you're on your way to building resources. And so that was critical for us. It now looks like we've got a predictable model, drill it from the east to the west, go across the structures, hit them square, get a true test of the target. And towards the end of the program last time in 2020, the guys were able to call when we were going to get grade within about 5 feet. So that was an interesting, prior to drilling the hole. So that was an interesting moment for us. Obviously, we learned that we were right after the transaction happened, and we never went back. And so there was an opportunity, just went into the database of my mind. And then when the opportunity came up to snap this property up, we did it. Looking now at the Hercules showing again to the east. East of Cliffs is over here where we were before. Again, drill it so that you're not going down dip. Get squared on the targets, and you'll get good results. You'll get good predictability to us. So it's simply we're moving in and out of the page. There also is some evidence that from drilling that we've got the Cliffs and Hercules may join up together. We might get one of these radial structures crossing it off, and we'll see where we get to here. So just sort of a summary slide, some of the hits that we've got in the past, what we expect in the future. This is good Nevada open pit heap leach grade. These are things that you can run mines on in Nevada. It's not like it's a Red Lake thing where you need huge grades over short distances. This is more of a bulk tonnage, open pit heap leach oxide scenario. So big targets in the north, big intercepts out here, 38 meters at 0.65, ending in mineralization, 25 meters at 0.68, ending in mineralization. Pony Meadows never been drilled. Como Comet's never been drilled. Obviously, there's a past producer out here that went to the property boundary and then stopped. So lots of work. We do have permits in hand to drill at Como Comets and Sirens. That's going to be something for the summer of 2025. The drilling that we're doing right now is focused here in the north. Just some more pretty pictures. You get more into the technical side of it with those sulfidation epithermal systems. If they start to get the visible gold VG in them, here, there, and right there, it's a good sign that the system's got some strength. You need a certain amount of punch to create visible gold in these things, but the bigger deposits are known for it. Round Mountain, which is Kinross's flagship in Nevada, has got spectacular visible gold. It's got a lot of punch to it. I've been told, I've never seen it, that Silicon Merlin, the 16 million ounce discovery in the southern part of Nevada, has got good visible gold in it. So those bigger deposits do have the punch to create the gold, and that's what we're starting to see at Hercules, is that punch of a larger system and the potential that we've got a good sized deposit on our hands here. So that's wrapping it up on Hercules. With that, if you want to send your questions to Knox, and we can start opening the conversation up for that.
Yeah, just go into the chat and then send your note directly to me, and then I'll just collect them all and kind of put them out in order here. Meanwhile, there is one question right off the bat, Mike.
Yep.
We acquired the asset for $250,000, an asset
Yep.
that you sold for $25 million 5 years earlier. So that's a win in itself, buying at a penny on the dollar. Can you explain in today's dollars how much work has been done on the project? Given that there's 300 drill holes, there's been groundwork, there's been claims acquired. If you tallied all that up, what would be the cost? And you assume that you have that 1 million ounces that we have in our target. Ballpark, what do you think that would cost per ounce?
I would put it probably, I would say that you're looking at somewhere around $30 an ounce in the ground to create the data that we have.
Yeah.
I would say that there's probably been 30 to 40 million in today's dollars spent on the property in all the drilling, the assay, geotime. Yeah, I mean, one of the things about the project historically is there were different owners of different claim packages historically, and so it's that cobbling it, getting it all together into one big package that's important, both for a layout, continuity, getting everything so that you can explore it effectively. I'm just going to roll back to a slide here if I can. Let's get a better look at the property. So when I had this property once before, we did a deal to acquire 116 claims covering these showings here. It's about 36 claims per square mile in Nevada. So you're talking about a 3 square mile target. And when we got out to site, we recognized that this could actually be something. And that was like, there's a real exhilarating moment when you realize, holy shit, this could actually, forgive my language, this could actually be something. And you go, okay, well, we're not the first persons here. This is Nevada. It's been around for a while. And we just drew bigger and bigger circles around that 116 claims. Okay, 5 miles away, all right, there's a little bit of Newmont ground that you can't get. 3 miles away, there's this inlier. And it was just like, okay, so take it all down. And the reason for that is if you've got something, you need the space to explore it effectively. you can see actually this sort of light gray alteration. This is the alteration that we're looking for. You can find it on Google Earth. It's spectacular. If you ever fly from Vegas to Reno, look out on the south side. It's there. It's amazing. And so we tried to, but if we had just had these 116 claims, well, what do you do with it? Like, where's the laydown go? Where's the waste rock pile go? Where's the leach pad go? That's why we staked this bit over here. There's a flat spot right there for all of that stuff, leach pads,
Yep.
waste rock piles, and there's an access road in that way as well. All this stuff in the south, we knew that there was the past producers out this way, and it was open for staking. The geochem is actually such that there's a high sulfidation target here, but that's for another day. I hope I answered the question and didn't ramble on too much there,
You
Knox.
answered and then some. Actually, meanwhile, we got other ones pouring in, and I like this question. Can you please speak to the sulfidization of the property? How deep do you think the oxides run?
That really depends on the target. Um, and so that it really is part of the mystery of this. Um, what has been seen in the past is that we have gotten into transitional material towards the bottom of the holes. It's expected in Nevada, so it's down there somewhat, and it really depends on which target that you're looking at. Cliffs and Hercules, because they're higher elevation, they've had more chance to leach, and the fluids have drained. The water table is lower, so they're the places that are deeper oxidized. The two main showings.
And our exploration target, I haven't seen the technical report yet, but it does say that's 1 million ounces oxide
Uh, it
in
it
the
doesn't
target.
it does not break that out.
It doesn't really break it down. Okay.
No, it does not break that down.
Okay, the next question. Is there a nearby city which may oppose an open pit?
Good question. I'll just go back to a slide here. This is Dayton. This is Dayton, Nevada. A couple of things about Dayton, Nevada. We're in the, pardon me, I'll take a step back. Dayton, Nevada, and this is Story County, Nevada. They're mining friendly. Let's go back to the very first slide. You can't, no, unfortunately, you can't see it. There's actually a big open pit mine. There's the town right there. There's an open pit that you can see from Hercules that's there existing. It's a dimension stone or barbecue rock or something like that. Mine out there. It's an aggregate thing. When we did our due diligence to acquire this the first time, I actually had a conversation with the owner of this. Any pushback from the town? No. This is the part of Nevada that knows how their bread is buttered. You get more further to the west around the true Comstock itself. It becomes more touristy, and you would have opposition to that. The other part of this is the visual impact. If we put an open pit right here, this is the Hercules showing, and get down, you actually can't see it from town. It's so the visual impact is modest. The other part of it is we talked about the access route in. You'd be coming in from the east out this way, so not impacting the town. You just circle around and come in. So
Okay.
we thought about those sorts of things before we did the acquisition. The other important question on the permitting questions are, in Nevada, there's two hot button species that people get that you need to be concerned about. One is sage grouse and the other is desert tortoise. The northern part of Nevada is not desert tortoise habitat, and Hercules is too high in elevation to be relevant for sage grouse. So it's nothing that can't be dealt with. There are sage grouse in the lower spots, but they know where they hang out, and you'd have to just site your operation to avoid them.
Okay, so good probability.
Yeah.
we've got a bunch of questions and we're gonna have to get a little bit more rapid fire because we're
Okay,
gonna run out of time here. Big picture beyond the million ounce, could this be a 3 to 5 million ounce play? And
absolutely.
then following that, so absolutely, just based on the size of the ground that we have, we're just scratching the surface and at
Yeah.
Cliffs and Hercules and Loaves. When you look at the rest of the package, it could definitely expand to that size. What's the drilling cost?
The drilling cost is $100 a foot US. And that's a simplified answer. That's the drilling, the geos, the water guys, the roads, the assays, everything. $100 a foot,
Okay.
$300 a meter.
Okay. How many drilling programs can potentially get us 3 million ounces? So I guess how many meters? That's like how long is a string? But
Yeah, I mean that really gets into geostats and how far a QP is willing to push the confidence out, and also would at what confidence level do you want that at? Um, yeah, it's not cheap and easy. There would be considerable drilling to get to that.
like tens of thousands of meters.
Yeah. One
Okay.
of the things that actually, just before we go away from that, Knox, is we do have on the northern part of the property, we do have the permit to do that sort of a drill program. It's called the plan of operations drilling. So just going to flick to a map here. About the area that we have topography on in this map, we've got a plan of operations and we can disturb up to a square mile for drill pads and various other things. Um, this is the siren showing it's in a notice. So we need to up here, if we went into that delineation defining resources drill program, you'd be going at it hard up here, and then the south would be tucked in later on.
Okay. Next question. Are there any royalties on your properties? If so, what is the royalty amount? I know
It's a
that
good
varies.
question and it's a
Yeah.
complicated answer.
Yeah, because it does vary on all the claims. Yeah.
Okay, here, all right.
Try to generalize it.
Try and generalize it. When we acquired the 116 claims here, we granted a 3% NSR to the underlying vendor with a 1 mile AOI around that. The 3% NSR's got a buy down of, I believe it's $2.5 million to cut it in half. There's this Lucky Rusty showing is named after the prospector's cats. And there's 4 claims here. I think that there's a 1% NSR that we can buy for $100,000 here. Sirens, there's 2 patented claims that we got from a chemist's wife, and there's an NSR with a buy down on that as well. Most of it is wide open. The 1 mile AOI doesn't extend down to sirens.
So nothing too punitive and fairly typical in this region.
I would
Your
say
typical,
it's towards the low end of
yeah.
typical.
Typically, you'd have 2% with buy downs,
Yeah,
that type of thing. So this is nothing too punitive.
nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Did the company recently raise money? Yes, we did. We raised $3 million at 20 cents. When do you see yourself having to raise your next capital raise? Well, obviously, after we put out our results, and which we're expecting in about a month or so.
Yep.
Care to add to that?
No, you nailed that one, Knox.
Okay, I think that's the last of the questions, and we wanted to go 45 minutes, and we're at 42. So can you go to the last slide, Mike?
All
If
right.
anyone has any further questions, they can contact me at kh@strikepointgold.com, and that's my direct cell phone number. And I'd be happy to call you back and answer your questions or, put you in touch with our technical team or Mike. And thank you everyone for joining us today.